Okay. Good morning. My
Good
name
morning.
is Lois Nicholas. I'm a nursing student at BRCC. I'm taking Mr. Simon for History Spring 2023. I have here with me Mr. Edward Bruski.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Edward.
Good morning.
How you feeling?
I'm doing well. How about
Okay.
yourself?
I'm doing good. All right. So, Mr. Edward, I'm gonna be doing an interview with you this morning. And
Okay.
my first question is, how you feeling this morning?
Little, getting over a cold, but I'm getting in there.
Okay, that's good.
Not COVID.
Okay, my first question would be, what branch in the service you served and how many years?
I was in the Air Force for just about 11 years, from January '83 to '93, right around August.
Okay.
Almost 11 years.
Yeah. And what was your rank?
I was a E5. I was a staff sergeant.
Okay. Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I missed the draft. I was in '83. They didn't have the draft, so I enlisted.
Oh,
And
okay.
here I have a little picture for you there.
Oh, look at Mr. Edward.
That was young, 18 years old Ed Bruski right there.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Where were you living when you joined the service?
I was living with my grandparents, and it's kind of ironic. I was kind of it was the early '80s, and I was cutting up a little bit, as they say nowadays. The kids say nowadays. And my stepfather, who was in the Army, was like, "You join the Army, or you're out of the house." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not joining the Army." So I moved in with my grandparents, and I cut up when I was there, and they were like, "The Air Force or get out." And I was running out of relatives.
Right.
So my grandmother's brother, Uncle Sonny, he was an E8 in the Air Force, and he took me down to the recruiter's office, and I kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit. And he'd come back, he's like, "He's not ready. He's not ready."
Right.
And so I joined. I finally went in, and recruiter acted like I went into the Navy, and they were like, "Hey, blah blah blah," and the Marines were just way too gun ho, and then the Air Force recruiter was like, "Really, you want to join? All right." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, wait, you don't want me?"
Right.
And so I that's basically how I chose the Air Force.
Okay. And how did your time in the service influence your current career goals?
Oh, a lot. When you're in the military, you think about doing 20, 25 and getting out. You'd be 30. If you join like I did when I was 18, you'd be 38 years old, and you have like a pension already, and you could kind of do what you want.
Right.
Second career, So I was a medic in the Air Force. I was, like I said, enlisted.
Okay.
And after I got out, I just had a hard time kind of adjusting to civilian life in a way. It was, when you told somebody to do something, when you're a sergeant, you told somebody to do something, you expect it to be done.
Right.
And then, I was a medic, and, I was doing suturing, and at one point, the doc left the office, and he goes, "Oh, you got the patients," and I was seeing patients like a doctor. I was like handing out medications and prescribing stuff and seeing things. And then when I got out, they were like, I went to apply at an ambulance thing because I was an EMT, and they're like, "Well, you can drive the ambulance." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Oh, and you need to do it as a volunteer." And I'm like, because they weren't paying. It was the freedom that I had in the military to see people and like to treat people, and you just can't do that on the civilian world. So I got pissed.
Right.
And I just did my own thing for a few years, and then since I was familiar with the medical field, a friend of mine came down to eat, and he goes, "Let me see where you work." And I was a stonemason.
All right.
I mean, cutting granite countertops and stuff like that, and out in the middle of nowhere in Navarre, Florida, no roof, just outside in the sun, and electrical tools, water, the electricians were like, I don't know how you're not electrocuted. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm just working. And he was like, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? I'm like, no, not really. So why don't you go back to school?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the GI Bill because I was just after that.
Right.
And I had what they call the Veterans Education Assistance Program, VEAPS, and it really was nothing. And now they got the new GI Bill. So I was kind of like that Cold War in between things, you know. And so I went back to school to become a nurse.
Okay.
That was in 2005 I graduated. So between 93 and 2005 I just kind of floated around and did anything. I mean, cement, stonemason, stock groceries, just a host of jobs.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Can you describe a time when your actions helped your team succeed?
We had, I was lucky. I was never shot at. I was never in combat because, again, I was kind of in between of everything. And so I was, we had inspections, but there was a time when we were doing an exercise in Utah, and one of our helicopters went down, and I knew the pilot that was killed, and I was with my doctor, who was a flight surgeon. The flight surgeons are the ones that basically take care of the pilots and air crew members and see them because it's a specialized medicine. And he was a young guy. His name was Ed also. And, the military, you get nicknames. He was Special Ed. I was not so Special Ed. So we were standing there together. I never seen so many generals walking in. It was like looking up at the sky. There was stars. All you saw was... And we were waiting to go out and look for survivors and stuff. But these Army Ranger unit pulled two guys out of the water. Oh, actually, it was pulled one guy out of the water. And the two pilots, one didn't make it, and the other pilot did, and everybody in the back, when the helicopter went in, the fuel cell slammed forward and crushed everybody that was in the back of the helicopter, and the one pilot went out through the top of the roof, and a blade came and cut him in half, and the other guy went in between the blades.
Oh my God.
And landed, and the Rangers, in the middle of this storm, it was nasty, man, in Salt Lake, and they paddled. They didn't realize the anchor was deployed, so they were paddling with the anchor and basically saved this guy. And it was, the doc and I were just like,
Jesus Christ.
yeah, man, it was, and this was a training mission. So anything can go wrong at any time.
Right. Okay, so how did or do you manage your stress level while you served, or just in your everyday life?
Back then it was, you had the guys that worked out a lot, and you had the guys that played sports, and then you had the guys that drank a little bit and, kind of just lived carefree. I kind of waddled in between all of them, I played sports, a lot of team camaraderie, We, have each other, have the younger guys come over for dinner and cook out and stuff like that, and drink a few beers or whatever. And then we would just basically hang out together, and that was kind of a
stress relief.
Yeah, stress relief for us.
Okay. And was it difficult for you adjusting back into civilian life?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. I mean, like I said, I never had the PTSD. I never really saw action and stuff like that. So I saw more stuff actually when I got out. But my training, I saw a lady get hit by a car and her feet were backwards and everything else, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, holy cow! I knew what to do or try to do, because I was just freshly out, So it's like, boom, throw a broken body in front of me, I know what to do, So I'm like, that, and there was another wreck I saw, and it just like boom, boom, and I tried getting into nursing school after I got out, and I've actually failed out of nursing school because I tried to do too much.
Right.
There was an IV. I was trying to help this guy get out, and the IV came disconnected, so I hooked it back up and blah blah. Oh Lord God, you thought I
Right.
threw the Bible on the ground and stomped on
Right.
it. You know, it's like you
Right.
can't do this and this and that, and then, so they basically just said you're not a fit. So
Wow.
I was like, and that was part of my little tirade for a while when I said I don't
Yeah.
want to do anything with medical. Just you know, I'll just do my thing.
Yeah.
But it was because, like I said earlier, you tell somebody I need this done, and there's none of this. Well, you know, I'll get to it later. No,
Right.
I need it done now.
Right.
So I get like that a little bit now. I mean, after all these years, it's what, 30 years?
Yeah.
When I tell people to do something, I
Right.
expect it done.
Right.
And it is the same thing when they tell me to do something.
You already own it.
Yeah,
Because you
I
know
get
that's
'em.
what you're looking
That's
for.
what you do,
Right.
and that's when they form you when you're young like that. It's like you need to do this. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, why do I have to fold my underwear into a 6-inch square?
Right.
Well, if you can't follow directions for this, how are
Right.
you going to work on an aircraft?
Yep. That's
How
right.
are you going to work on a vehicle?
Right.
How are you going to handle somebody that's broken and laying in front of you?
Right, exactly.
So if it's the simplest things you can't do,
Yep. That's right. Yep. So, in what ways did you benefit from serving in the military, such as like education and career? Well, I know you went over your career.
yeah, I mean, I have my master's. It was discipline. My kids,
Yeah.
I have a 37,
Okay.
33. She just turned 33, and their work ethic. They are like, Dad, you gave us the work ethic because there was no calling in sick.
Right.
And you worked in the hospital. I tried it one time when I was 18. I said, "Man, I'm not feeling well." And they're like, "Get your ass in here."
Right.
And I'm like, "Yes, sir."
Right.
You know. So the work ethics, the discipline, to do it, get it done mentality,
Right.
and especially in school, I had from my associate's degree to my master's degree were all in-person classes. I only
Okay.
had one, maybe two online classes. So I had to go.
Yeah.
And you had to get this done. And I worked full time and was raising small kids or
Right.
smaller kids with my wife
Right.
who worked. So
Yeah.
you had to do it. It's something you had to get done. And I think that's what one of the things the military teaches you. is
Right.
There is no excuses. Just
Right.
get it
do
done.
it. Just do it. Like the Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
All right, Mr. Ed, do you have any closing remarks or anything you feel like you want to add to what you already have done? You did such a good job, and I appreciate
Oh,
you.
no problem. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know how school is, as I said.
Yes.
And it takes a lot, and it's a lot of dedication. I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
So I wish she gets an A.
Right.
So it was an honor to serve. I wish I could have served longer. I was in that Clinton era where they kind of downsized everything, so I don't have
Yeah.
the retirement. But I'm, like I said, working with the VA now,
Right.
working with the veterans here. It helps on my career because
Right.
when I go into a room and they know I'm a veteran,
Right.
it does help a little bit. It's like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
Just let's go.
And that kind of eased them too, because they're like, that's somebody I can relate to, you know. And I done heard y'all tell stories, and, you know, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
and it's interesting, and you know, listening to these guys, some of the older ones talk about what they did in World War II.
Yeah.
You know, and there was one elderly. I know I'm going to run over, but I'm going to tell this story
Yeah.
because he was an elderly black man that was on a Navy ship. He was a steward for the doctors. And so he made sure they had their coffee and stuff. And these guys were coming back from the islands in
Yeah.
the battle, like Iwo Jima and stuff like that. And they were coming back, and the docs were working on them on the hospital boat. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, you kind of upset the way you were treated, that you weren't allowed to go
Right.
out and fight like the whites?"
Right.
He goes, "I was fine right where I was at."
Right.
He goes, "I saw those boys, how they came back and how they would shot up and everything else. He goes, those guys deserved everything they got.
Right.
You know, he goes, I was fine right where I was. And then, conversely, we've had some guys that were upstairs that African American, and they were snipers.
I know.
In Vietnam, and I'm listening to their stories and what they were telling me, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it definitely helps with me relating to these guys.
Yeah.
You're talking about work experiences. How does it help now?
Right.
So, it's amazing.
Yep.
I kind of came like full circle. You
Right,
know?
right.
So,
right.
and if I didn't get out, I may not even be here now.
Right.
Who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows what, you know?
Yep.
Maybe I was meant to do this.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ed. I
You're welcome.
appreciate you. Thank you for
It's an A.
serving. Yes. You hear, Mr. Simon? Thank you.
You're welcome.